Chair recognizes the Governor of the great state of Nebraska, Jim Pillen.
Good morning. President Kelly, Speaker Arch, members of the 109th Legislature, tribal leaders, my fellow Nebraskans. What an incredible time of promised opportunity for our state and our nation. What a tremendous moment to serve our fellow citizens in public office. I'm as grateful today for that privilege as I was 2 years ago when I stood in this chamber and swore to uphold the Constitution. And I am more invigorated than ever before. I recently had a real reminder of the preciousness of each moment. For the incredible number of Nebraskans whose livelihood depends on the stewardship of powerful animals, they understand fully the respect of that power is no mystery. A few weeks ago, I dropped my guard, and I was humbled by the power of that horse. I stand before you here today simply only by God's grace. But a life-giving moment like that I experienced can have the effect of clarifying one's sense of mission. It reminds one of how incredibly delicate life is and to absolutely make the most of every single moment we're given. I'm incredibly grateful that Almighty God has given me a second shot at life. And I continue on the road to recovery, instilled with a renewed commitment to spending my days fighting for the people of Nebraska and most importantly, to make a difference. I'm incredibly grateful, not many words to use that I can find to express my gratitude and love for Suzanne, for her constant love and care, and I'm unbelievably grateful the outpouring and support of so many Nebraskans. And I'm especially grateful for the power of the prayers of so many, sending me the incredible gift of the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit's healing me fast. Thank you. Okay, no more horsing around. To all the public servants of this room, and especially to our new senators and their families, thank you for answering the call and saying yes to public life and for taking on the burdens and sacrifice of service. The road ahead is full of long days and late nights, of time away from your loved ones, and of sometimes trying debates and disagreements. But with it comes the daily opportunity to leave the greatest place in the world even better than when we found it for our kids and our grandbabies. If we keep their futures and the betterment of this state as our North Star and set our own political fortunes aside, there is absolutely, positively no limit of what we can achieve here together. I am incredibly excited to partner with both the veterans and the new arrivals of this legislature. And I assure you, every single moment that you serve is worth it. I'm pleased to report that the state of our state is extraordinarily strong. Our unemployment rate is among the lowest in America. Our state's population is growing faster than it has in decades, and our population now has just topped 2 million people. It equals the 2 million mama cows we have in the Sandhills. The engines of our economy are powering that growth, from our agricultural background to our powerhouse financial services and the manufacturing sectors. Our state government is smaller, more efficient, and more productive. And at long last, the tax burden on our citizens to pay for that government is less than it was 2 years ago. Our natural resources are plentiful. Our people are the greatest character and the hardest working of anywhere on earth, right here in Nebraska. As I love to always say, everywhere I go, what do you love the most about Nebraska? And the answer is it's the people. And it soon will be morning again in America with the return of a presidency and Congress committed to making this nation prosperous, secure, strong, and healthy again. But even with these strengths, this legislation affords us a tremendous opportunity to take further steps forward. Simply put, the work of making Nebraska a low-tax state is far from over. We should remember how we got here, why our tax system is so out of whack. In the past, during a period of deflation, hard for us to remember that, but there were periods of deflation 10 and 15 years ago, our city, county, and state governments grew at an excessive rate. There was little fiscal restraint, and the result was bloated government growing unchecked on the backs of our people. The burden is upon us today to fix it now. To make Nebraska competitive with our neighbors, we must set the example at the state level. Despite dire warnings of budget shortfalls, I'm presenting a budget that shrinks state spending by 0.5% over the next biennium. In fact, if you set aside the increased and unreimbursed Medicaid spending required by the federal government, state spending in this budget is reduced by 2.3%. Even as we make a multi-generational investment in the University of Nebraska Medical Center and significantly increase our state commitment to supporting the mission of Offutt Air Force Base and the Strategic Command. We have presented to you a fully balanced budget that cuts spending. We have achieved this historic spending restraint by having the courage to say no and to focus on needs, not wants. And we will continue to have that courage to focus on our needs and say no. The reality is not all are happy when we work to fix the tax system. But as my dad used to say and tell us on the farm, what on earth does happy have to do with it? We have work to do. Our job as public servants is not to make everyone happy. much less any one industry or special interest group. Our job is to focus on schools, on public safety, on our roads and infrastructure, and the critical services that Nebraskans need. That's what we need to do for Nebraska and Nebraskans and nothing else. This year, we will prioritize improvements to Nebraska's school funding system. TIOSA, Nebraska's 30-year-old formula for school funding, remains broken, burdening local communities and property taxpayers and districts with limited resources and shortchanging our kids. It would shock most Nebraskans to hear that 25 years ago, there were 226 school districts that received state aid. 24 years later, in 2024, guess what the number is? 60. That was not the intent with the original law. We are going to have the courage to make serious and lasting fixes to this system. I will establish a blue ribbon commission of experts to cut through the bureaucracy and vested special interest in our current school funding system and recommend a new model for Nebraska, which this legislature will be able to consider and adopt. And along with other technical changes to strengthen TIOSA, Senator Hughes is championing a bill that will honor the state's constitutional obligation to fund K-12 education by increasing foundation aid per student across the state, consistent with the principle that school funding should always follow the student, not the system. Although we wouldn't know by reading papers, last year did result in real wins for Nebraskans, struggling with our spiraling property tax crisis. After years in which only some Nebraskan owners took advantage of the property tax credits, now every single homeowner has received this relief. For the first time in a generation, Nebraskans opened their property tax statement last month to find the amount they owed was lower than the year before. Like many of you, I've been overwhelmed by the gratitude shown by so many Nebraskans for this relief. For the first time ever, the amount of property taxes local governments can collect is capped, with common sense flexibility to allow for public safety, police, and firefighters. But the work's not done, it's just beginning, and we must do more this year. There are leaders in this body, like Senator Clements, who continue to fight to eliminate Nebraska's death tax. By making common sense adjustments to our tax code and making it more competitive with other states, we will invest $200 million more dollars into Nebraska's property tax credit fund. From Harrison to Omaha, Nebraskans of all stripes have recognized how out of whack our property taxes are, and they've become what a burden they put on families, communities, and our ability to grow. They expect us to continue to work to solve it, and I know we will. To shrink government, we must eliminate its obsolete parts. And as I love to say, there's a lot of closets that we need to clean out. Over the years, we have created far too many boards and commissions. Many have missions that are duplicative of those of other government agencies, or which have grown simply outdated over time. All add regulatory power or more government where none is needed, especially at a time when we must tighten our belt and treat every nickel like manhole covers. We must continually assess which parts of government are still of use to the people. The clock ran out on these efforts last session, but we must right-size our boards and commissions with a common sense, bipartisan bill that will eliminate or consolidate dozens of them. Speaker Arch has reintroduced a bill that will do just that. I'm grateful for his leadership for this important issue, and I look forward to signing it into law. We have an opportunity to consolidate and streamline two of our major code agencies. Water is the lifeblood of Nebraska. And what we do to protect our quantity and to improve our quality of water, I believe, will be our legacy. Through both our vast system of surface waterways and our treasured pot of gold, the Ogallala Aquifer, we have a natural hedge against drought and therefore a God-given foundation for our agriculture and the industrial economy to weather it through the toughest of times. State government bifurcates its management of this resource through two separate departments, the Department of Environment and Energy and the Department of Natural Resources. By doing so, we needlessly divide our focus on water quality and quantity, and given the interrelatedness of these two things, this just simply doesn't make any sense. Further, it places us, Nebraska, out of step with our neighbors and uncompetitive with the majority of our fellow states. For our most treasured resource, water, to remain the envy of North America, our Ogallala Aquifer is the most sustainable and largest underground aquifer in the Western Hemisphere. To remain the envy of the Western Hemisphere for the next 7 generations, a new model of stewardship is needed. I'm grateful to Senator Brandt for carrying an important measure that will combine the Department of Energy Environment and the Department of Natural Resource and establish a new combined Department of Water, Energy, and Environment. It will save cost, it will eliminate duplicative overhead, and it will streamline the mission of stewarding and protecting our natural resources and environment, and enhance collaboration between our people as well. We have begun to work on consolidating of all the important work of these two agencies under unified leadership, and I look forward to working with you to carry that work to its completion. Now, more than ever, it's vital that our state speaks with a unified voice on the national stage. For 3 decades, under current allocation of electoral college votes by congressional district, we have divided our voice and diminished our impact in presidential elections. Not one of our fellow states, except for one, has followed down this path. Now is the time to fix it. And I thank Senator Lippincott for his leadership and giving it the priority it deserves. With no presidential election around the corner, there's no better time than now to dispassionately deliver on the will of the majority of the people of this state, to honor our constitutional founding and unify our voice in our most important exercise of democracy. I call on this body to end this 30-year experiment and pass winner-take-all this legislative session. I think it's appropriate to say now, in this new modern world where we have these things that are so important to us that we have to check them every 30 seconds, I think it can be extremely difficult to protect our kids and culture from the harmful effects of the ever-present social media, online bullying, and attacks on our values. Every parent knows firsthand the worry of what their kids are being exposed to online and on screens. I believe here in Nebraska, we need to level the playing field between parents and the big tech giants. I'm grateful to Senator Sanders, Senator Hardin, Senator Bozen, and Senator Storer for introducing a package of bills to protect our children from the harms of social media, ban phones in classrooms, and fix our child pornography laws to include AI-generated images. Think about this. We protect our kids from tobacco. We protect our kids from alcohol. We protect our kids from tattoos until certain ages. And we even restrict the age of when kids can work. Do you think we should take that one up too? There's no reason why we should not protect their mental health from the damage caused by social media too. We must protect our kids, and especially our daughters and granddaughters, in other ways. In a world where common sense has become uncommon, it remains our North Star here in Nebraska. It's hard to understand a small minority of people believe it's acceptable to allow biological boys to share bathrooms, locker rooms, playing fields with girls. This is unfair, unconscionable, and a recipe for predatory behavior. Senator Kauth has brought back a new and improved Stand With Women Act, which will make sure that women's spaces are protected for women. I don't want my granddaughters that are sitting up there in the first row, for that matter, sharing a locker room with boys. And I don't want them competing against boys. And I know the overwhelming majority of Nebraskans agree. Pass the Stand for Women Act to my desk so we can protect common sense and young girls here in Nebraska. And last but absolutely not least, we must take steps to protect both our farmers and producers and our consumers of food in our state. I'm grateful to Senator Jacobson for his work to protect farmers' data from being taken advantage of by large corporate and big data interests. We have another opportunity to protect both consumers and our agricultural producers in a single step. It's important we send a message of leadership in Nebraska. The big food industry wants to flood our supermarket shelves with deceptively named products that purport to be meat on par with what our ranchers, feeders, and farmers produce throughout Nebraska. But the hardcore reality is really simple. This stuff is made in bioreactors and is a masquerade of the original with unreliable protein, unknowable ingredients, and a flat-out dishonest label on the front. It's really important for us all to be on the same page. The backers of these products are all cut from the exact same cloth. They are anti-farmer activists who are the modern-day Trojan horse that wants to put our agricultural producers and everything tied to agriculture out of business. It's really, really important that all of us recognize that. I will never stop fighting for Nebraska's farmers and ranchers. And I stand, thank you. The lifeblood of our state, we need to be on offense. And I stand with Senator DeKay, who has introduced a strong bill to beef up our consumer protections and false labeling laws. to eliminate these dishonest practices from Nebraska's grocery shelves. Last year, Nebraskans, what we experienced was unbelievable. Countless examples of public service in its purest form. In 2024 was a year where we felt the wrath of Mother Nature time and time and time again. Record blizzards, raging wildfires, torrential floods, and extraordinary vicious tornadoes. It set the stage for a record 11 declared emergencies last year, throughout the year. Many Nebraskans experienced the worst day of their lives, with their homes destroyed, their families in peril, and their futures incredibly uncertain. But here's the awesome thing. In the darkest moments, the people of our state were at their best. Nebraskans. Helping Nebraskans. And the strength and incredible grit and determination of our people shone through the brightest. One of the incredible privileges is getting to serve as your governor is to get to know firsthand the men and women who have answered the call to be the first to respond when the crisis strikes. I met an extraordinary peer public servant who talked about going into homes totally destroyed, expecting to find victims of the tornado, and what that emotionally did to him and his team. With us today is Chris Potter, Chief of the Kennard Volunteer Fire Department from Washington County, whose fire and EMS responders were there for the community moments after the deadly tornado tore through it. Please join me in welcoming Chris as a representative of all of our first responders across our state. Chris. Chris is over to our right under the balcony. Thank you, Chris. Chris, the moment that I met you and you told me about what you and your team went through, you just touched my heart deeply. And all your incredible work, your leadership, we're incredibly grateful, so thank you. Also with us today is the entire Nebraska Emergency Management Agency team, better known as NEMA. These dedicated people are the hub of the wheel of our state's emergency response system. I know I have taken what they do totally for granted. When the call comes in the middle of the night, they're the ones that start making it happen. Their work is not seen, it's really unknown to most of Nebraskans, but that in no way diminishes the dedication of their work or the pride which they do it in. Please join me in welcoming the NEMA team and honoring them and thanking them. Our NEMA team, please stand up. Yeah, please. I'm getting there. Many important issues will consume our focus throughout this legislative session. I pledge to you that we will be your partner throughout it all. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everyone stepping up and answering the call of public service. and it's really important that we thank your families. May God bless you, and may God bless the people of the greatest state in the history of civilization, Nebraska. Thank you for the privilege.
Will the committee please escort the governor from the chamber?
They're going to go this way. Okay. You can do the rear back.
Laura, do we think we have pretty well everyone here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still need some hangers in the chamber, but they'll wander down this way.
Okay, perfect. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming by. We'll go ahead and get started. I'll try to answer your questions, and I've got help here for detail if I don't have it. Just for the record, I'm not a politician. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. So, but we can get your answer. Who'd like to start? Andrew.
You presented your budget to lawmakers today. I guess, how do you think that went, and do you think that they're on board, specifically the Appropriations Committee?
Yeah. I think one of the things, so the question Andrew said is, you present the budget to the legislature. How do you think it's received in Appropriations Committee? I think that we've had an impact in 2 years. I think it started from day one. If you remember back in January of 23, we had, as I called it, bushel baskets and bushel baskets and bushel baskets of money because of the extraordinary flow of all the money that was printed through the pandemic, and a lot of it came stored in on states' revenue, increased states' revenue, not only in Nebraska but every state. So my first experience, and as I say, when even in our own home, when we come across more money, what do we tend to do with it than we thought we'd have? We tend to want to spend it. And so what we experienced day one for our first budget was every state agency, because the money was there, asking for way more money than they needed. I'm a fiscal conservative. I saw bloated government take place while I was on the Board of Regents, so we started out saying no to everything. We said no to absolutely everything, and our goal of our original budget was to be at a 0% spending. It ended up being 2.2% of spend above, and most of that was because the State Patrol had been underfunded for years, and we corrected that. So my point in bringing that all up is we have a unicameral that understands more what it takes to be fiscally conservative. I think we have a very, very, very fiscally conservative chair of the Appropriations Committee, and I believe that we have bipartisan support for a lot of the things. That's not to say that there's not going to be debate, but I feel real good with what we've done with our budget, and expect we're focused on needs, and I think that that resonates in a bipartisan way, and really, really important. After the original forecast, it showed that we'd have a $400+ million deficit, and then in the second year that it'd be $1.1 billion. And we've through our team's work and working with the legislators, we come up with where we'll be at plus $72 million. So I expect to have a very, very positive response from the legislature. Yes, Jim.
Governor, could you state your position on the kind of missing property tax year that some people identify, that there's a bill introduced to try to close that gap,
Yeah.
but some people dispute its existence. Where do you stand on that?
On finding the funding?
The funding, the existence of that missing year problem, and the need to rectify up to $750 million in property tax credits.
Yeah, that one's really, really simple. People are getting hung up on that property tax legislation, or getting hung up on themselves. It's with the property. That you're talking about the bill last year, right? Or last in the second? Yeah. That about the gap year. Is that what? Yeah. So no, that's really simple. It's just totally misunderstood and misrepresented. That bill goes with the property. So the only person that misses out on a credit is if they would sell their property and move out of state. they sell their property and buy another property, they get the same credit. So, yeah, it's a non-issue in my mind. Yes, sir.
Can you provide some more background on how we got to this $432 million budget shortfall? You mentioned in the speech today that unemployment is low, state population growth is up, governor is smaller, you had a very conservative appropriations chair. So how did that get us into this $432?
How did we get to that budget shortfall? Federal government. So the funding. To make it really, so our budget would be when you take the FMAP and the federal dollars that were taken away from for Medicaid, that's the shortfall. So if we didn't have, if the FMAP and the federal government funding Medicaid like normal, we'd be up a plus a couple $100 million. So, and our actual deficit spend would be like 2.5%. So the whole thing that started it was when the federal government came and penalized Nebraska. We were penalized the highest of any state, 3%, because of our unemployment, because of the wage increases of Nebraskans. So it doesn't make sense when the dust settles with the new, after inauguration, we're going to go to D.C. and say, look, this is a funding mechanism for Medicaid that should be pro rata with every state. It makes absolutely no sense that you are penalizing states that are doing well. So that's what stimulated all. Yeah.
Did we not know about that share was going to be changed, or at what point did we become aware that we had that shortfall?
We became aware of that about 60.
3 months ago.
Okay. Yeah. Let's say November 1, somewhere in there.
Governor, I have a question on the legislative bill reductions. So you signed this legislation into law. What changed between then and now? Can you give me a little bit more information about why?
On which one I've missed?
Relocation and signing.
Oh, yeah.
Legislative bill reductions.
There were all of the LIFO list. What was
Oh, yeah. So, what changed, obviously, our position, hey, we have to balance the budget and deal with what's come our way. We have to say no to some things. Maybe the most disappointing thing I've experienced since being your governor is all these Christmas tree bills. And so the Christmas tree bills, there's a $500,000 cost here, $1 million here, $2 million there, $3 million there. Pretty soon it's $150 million. So we simply looked at all of those expenses that came from Christmas tree legislation, and our fundamental approach was last in, first out. Now, fundamentally for me, didn't matter whose bill it was, didn't matter any, but one of my bills was stimulating the economy, $21 million. The original goal was to attract people to Nebraska, and then they don't have income tax, so that they would get the win. And in the end, it ended up being an expense where companies got it. So we said that wasn't the intent, and we need to take it out. So that's how we've approached that list. Yes, Andrew.
Why do you think it's more important to provide tax relief than to fund, some of these things that you've already committed to funding?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe what I'm trying to say is a lot of things I did not commit to fund to, and that's where we have to fix the approach of how we're doing things. Christmas tree bills are totally wrong, and I will tell you in the future, no matter what good stuff is in there, there's a whole lot. The Christmas tree legislation or expenses that I didn't like, and retrospectively shouldn't have signed. So Christmas tree bills have to be fixed. They get piled on, no debate, and you just keep spending money, and we have to stop that. Yes, sir.
Governor, you said during your speech that winner take all is the will of the people.
Yeah.
But as I understand, Senator Dorn has a bill ready to drop that would put it on, make it a constitutional amendment make that change, put it directly to the people to vote. But he says, he's indicated that your office has told him to kind of back off that and support the Lippincott bill.
Yeah.
So why the approach? If it is the will of the people, why not put it directly to
Yeah.
the people on the ballot? Why do it through the legislature?
Yeah, great question. So the question is about winner take all. Why there's the thought of putting it out and put it on the ballot. That topic's not a constitutional issue. That topic goes before the will of the people. That was a 30-year experiment that was put into law, if you put it into the Constitution, there's never a chance of change. Things could happen 50 years from now. That's why I believe we do away with the legislation. We stand up for what the people want. All of us are elected to represent the people. That's our job. Our job is not to put every issue before the people on a ballot initiative. So I just fundamentally disagree with it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. When people understand the issue, the greatest majority are for winner take all. Andrew.
You talked earlier a little bit about bipartisanship in your budget. In the special session, and leading up to it, you weren't necessarily, talking with all lawmakers, and obviously that session didn't go how you wanted it to. Are you taking a different approach to how you're governing this?
Yeah. So Andrew's question is in terms of bipartisan approach. Maybe and said that we didn't do that. Well, the reality is we did. We had countless meetings. I think, summertime we worked our tails off, and we had a committee of, I think, 19 senators, and I think there would have been a half a dozen Democrats in the committee. So we worked very, very hard. Again, probably the learn of the special session, number one, we got a lot accomplished. Being able to have Nebraskans open their tax statements and see 20 and 25 and 30% reduction in their property tax. There's great gratitude there. Obviously, it's not enough to get us competitive, so we have more to do. But we've worked with bipartisan approach, and we'll continue to do that. I'm governor of everybody in Nebraska, and we'll continue to do that.
How long will your Blue Ribbon Committee, task force take to come up with a fix for TOs?
Yeah, Andrew, the question is how long will the Blue Ribbon Commission take? We've been meeting with superintendents, and our team has been meeting with superintendents a lot and often. So there's been a lot of conversation. I think that it's really, really important that we establish that the leadership of our K-12 education are the ones that are going to put the print on it. My belief will be that they'll be able to accomplish a lot because we've all been doing a lot of work together for the last 2 years. I believe that they'll be able to come together in a reasonable time frame. I'm old enough to not put things on a time, say it's going to happen by this date, because usually bad outcomes. It's going to come to the party, come to the table when it fits for everybody that serves on that.
Governor, can you talk about where your budget proposal today would leave a lot of the Star Wars projects, the lakes, Lake McConaughey and the Lake between Omaha and Lincoln? Where are those at today under that proposal?
Yeah, I think that we've just followed good common sense approach. I bring up what took place during transition when we had bushel baskets and bushel baskets of money, and then that doesn't take into consideration the ARPA funds. And so when all the ARPA funds came about, there were, before my time, but I think I remember there was like $4 billion worth of requests. And it's a beautiful term for all of the funding. It was Star Wars concepts. And so, we don't need Star Wars in Nebraska. We need common sense, and we need to focus on 100% on our needs. The lake concept from my seat, as soon as the Olson report came out and said that it would take water away from the city of Lincoln. I mean, there's nothing more to talk about. I had made a handshake agreement with former Senator McDonald on the $6 million, but that was on the condition of that lake. Now he will come out and say that I've gone against my word and that there was lots of other locations. No, there might have been, but nobody ever told me about it. You know, if today, if somebody's going to talk about a big lake, it better be about water conservation and make good sense for economic development. One of the things that I find fascinating about the lake is nobody talks about the extraordinary infrastructure of lakes that have been developed in 140 years along all of our rivers. I mean, we have beautiful homes, extraordinary recreation that go on. I mean, I think I can't say the Czech Lake, but the Czechs have an extraordinary place down on a river that they developed 125 years ago. We have that, and that was all organic, taking the sand, building roads, building buildings. That's what makes sense. Building a lake and digging it out and double costs. I mean, we're too practical in Nebraska to do that. Andrew?
I think the budget you've outlined would take the state's cash reserve from more than $800 million down to around $355 million
Yep.
in the next 6 years. Are you comfortable with draining that much from the cash reserve?
Yeah, it's a great question. The question is, am I comfortable taking the cash reserve down to like $355 million? Yeah, I am. And the reason why I am, Andrew, is, believe it or not, in state government, we have over 600 cash funds. Over 600 cash funds. And those are things that drive me crazy because it's the people's money. And so we have, having that reserve at that level is good common sense. Everybody always wants more, but we have plenty of money to be able to meet the needs of Nebraskans. Not a concern at all. And that 600 cash funds, that totals today right at $2.7 billion. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you communicating with everybody in Nebraska. So thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate it. I would. 7 generations forever, and I hope you don't ever get tired of it because I'm going to keep talking about it as long as I'm governor, and I'd like to recognize who taught me that, tribal leader of the Sani Sioux, Alonzo Denny. So, yeah. And I can assure you because of tribal leader Denny of the Sani Sioux, by teaching me the 7 generations, the focus on water and water quantity and water quality. When you start thinking long term, you see things differently. So I'm incredibly grateful for learning that. I'm incredibly grateful for my relationship with Tribal Leader Denzi. So thanks for being here today. All right, thank you.